1500, but then in the same time, later on, slaves from Africa, most of them were entering to Brazil through Bahia, through Salvador. So that was the main port for the entrance of Africans. So that is the place. To je bilo prvo to mešanje i susret prvo između Evropljana i ovih domorodaca s jedne strane, a onda sa treće strane i sa Afrikancima, i da je ta simbioza tog susreta u stvari to što je esencija nekog brazilskog izraza.
Evo sad baš gledam na karti. Belo Horizonte, Rio de Janeiro, pa iznad toga je State of Bahia.
Bahia i tu je Salvador kao on je glavni grad. I Salvador je bio prvi glavni grad Brazila, i onda tek, da kažem, kasnije će se administrativni centar premestiti, jer će se težište ekonomsko premestiti s ovim plantažama šećerne trske, kafe, u stvari više kafe, kad kafa postaje glavna ekonomija, težište se premešta zemlje prema jugu, i onda Rio de Janeiro preuzima primat. A onda kroz 20. vek Sao Paulo u ekonomskom smislu, pa sad Brazilija to kao administrativni centar. Ali Brazilija je zaista administrativni centar, ona nije ni u kulturnom, ni u ekonomskom smislu ne može da parira Rio i ovom Sao Paulo.
Okay. So,
samo ću ovo da pustim, mogu da završim, znaš, to sa tim.
Da, ja bih ovo postavio, a onda bih ilustrovao u okviru ovog događaja, bih stavio nekoliko ovih klipova, ovih lepih klipova, pogotovo oni stari sa onom Marijom.
A ova Marisa Monte, da.
Da, ona i ona na početku.
Ovog Daniela, reverenda može.
Da, i on i na samom početku, onih 40. godina.
A ova Carmen Miranda?
Miranda, da.
Da, važi, ne problem. Važi. Evo, ovo da.
Ce jour-là, par chance, Vinicius venait d'accueillir le grand guitariste Baden Powell. Ainsi commençait mon voyage de circumnavigation dans la jeune musique brésilienne, le plus beau voyage de découverte possible. Je vous dirai pas fermer les yeux, ouvrir les oreilles. Mais pour un moment, ce qui compte, c'est bien le seul plaisir enchanteur et magique du monde de la musique, le monde qui est né de la rencontre du lyrisme personnel et d'une musique populaire.
Ne, ali ovo, mislim, kao ambijent, jer je ovaj, da kažem, gitarista, Baden Powell, i to, da kažem, je bilo njihovo afro sambe ciklus, isto to, 60-ih, 70-ih godina, njihova saradnja, ali kao to je bio fazon, možeš da kažeš, kao u kuću, on je bio, mislim, bogat čovjek, he was, let's say, rich guy for Brazil. He opened house, Vinicius de Moraes.
What style is this? What style of music is this?
It's Canto de Osana.
And what style is it? Like
Afro samba, yeah. And
oh, that's him.
Yeah, and the story is, that through that interaction, different things appear. Bossa Nova, and was also in some way interaction where middle class, and upper middle class in some way opened up and had communication, open communication and exchange.
And when was that? Maybe in which decade do you think that happened with the middle class?
Well, that was in late 1950s. It is, that golden era, I would say, of Brazil, It's after Vargas committed suicide, and that was 1955. So I would say from 1955-6 that it starts some kind of opening, and it goes to 1964. That was that short decade.
Abertura, I think.
Yeah, then it was coup and dictatorship and so on. So then there were like interesting things happening during that time as well. I didn't show you anything. There is very interesting funk, soul scene, whole this black Brazil that exploded as well in 1970s. Then I have, but I will stop here. Maybe not to.
I think it's amazing he started getting into music only in his 40s and he was so successful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, successful. He was not the guy running after money, and he was, I would say, wealthy enough for a comfortable life. But that was just the way of life that he was living, and they were also there is like other side. Vinicius was drinking a lot. He was drinking whiskey. Yeah, he had some kind of expression. I cannot remember, but it was always whiskey around, and he was
like
the
Hemingway.
one.
Like Hemingway, yeah.
Well, yeah, and then Jobim started to drink a lot next, like together with Vinicius, and Jobim.
Whiskey's actually expensive in Brazil. I mean, cachaça would have been a lot cheaper, I think.
Yeah, but okay, they could afford whiskey, and they had, I would say, problem with alcohol. Vinicius died relatively, okay, he was 62, 63. I don't know, Jobim was also not much older when he died. But Jobim was much younger than Vinicius, maybe even 15 years younger or something like that. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, it was really the way of life that they were living, and I don't know if today you would find such creatures there, and if they would be able to make such a breakthrough with the media as it is today, because there is like a complete monopoly of this media, of these media conglomerates. So it's really, specific kind of music that is completely deprived from this feeling of some kind of encounter, wider community or something, some kind of human feeling. So it's deprived of that. It's much better produced, but deprived of some
essence.
Yeah.
Essence.
I would say of feelings of this immediacy. So
what did you say? What?
Essence.
Essence.
Maybe like I don't know if some other clips to show it, because this is okay. Interesting, like new phenomenon, because it's there was whole movement in Pernambuco. That's also one northeastern state. That's called Mangue Beat, and it is 2000 year, like late 90s, early 2000. When they started, and it's interesting, Suba was producing some of those bands as well, from Northeast, that were they were combining those local rhythms with this, let's say, global idioms, musical sounds. So yeah, that is one of those interesting outcomes of new time. And it's interesting also when you know a little bit of context, because this guy, the band is called Nassau Zumbi. Zumbi was the guy that is the story of rebellions in slave times. They were somehow creating those slaves that escaped to free territories. They were creating their republics or free territories, and this Zumbi was one of the leaders of free territory, and they are called, the band is called Zumbi Nation, you know, like so. And Maracatu, the song is Maracatu Atomico. Maracatu is local rhythm and in atomic, you know, version.
What do you mean atomic version?
Like, you know, Maracatu 2000, you know, contemporary, because Maracatu is somehow connected, is traditional rhythm from that area that is connected, you know, with previous time periods, and in a way, in their recreation, it sounds modern. So in that sense, atomic, you know.
And tomorrow I look in the computer. Tomorrow you will give us Gilberto Gil Maracatu Atomico. He sang that song. I see now.
Yeah, I mean, it's
the one that you mentioned yesterday, Gilberto Gil.
There is the point is, you know, that it's very interesting there that you will have. I had some videos. Unfortunately, we cannot play that CDs, DVDs. You can see these guys that are like rockers or even hip hop guys playing samba. There are those events when samba, you have big like samba event, and practically musicians belonging to completely different styles are playing and performing samba songs as well, singing samba songs as well. Then guys is they are at least some of those musicians like Gilberto Gil. They are crossing easily these borders. They are not in one genre. They are easily crossing and playing in different ones. Gilberto Gil was, I would say, I don't know how much touch of bossa nova he had, but they stepped on the big stage in 1960s as well. So they were part of Tropicalismo, that Tropicalia with Os Mutantes. Then he spent some years in London in exile, got in touch with Jimmy Cliff, with whole reggae scene in London, you know, that was present in that time. So they were, Gilberto Gil was in many ways connected with flourishing of reggae in northeast of Brazil. And then, yeah, in many different styles he would, and also trying to promote these younger musicians that were, as this Nassau Zumbi, they were kind of local phenomenon, and you know, Gilberto Gil was someone, you know, who was giving them, you know, this wider legitimacy, to put it that way. But anyway, thanks for attention, and I will stop here.
What will be tomorrow?
Well, what we decide, I mean, it's...
Maybe more like about 60s and 70s with dictatorship and stuff.
Okay,
you know?
yeah, that can be interesting also through music as well. I can show, yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, the revolt and how actually the musicians, I remember hanging with Brazilians in New York. They were telling me, these older guys, that was a big opposition to oppressors in 60s and 70s among the musicians. So how they actually cracked them, and you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's the story of that Tropicalia, and we can also talk about that. Let's say ideological readings of music. And perception, for instance, of rock and roll, and that is very, and also bossa nova, because you have Marxist or these very left critics, cultural critics, that were criticizing bossa nova as American, too much Americanized. And it was always the issue of instruments, what came from where. Then rock and roll was for a long time considered as imperialistic. Electric guitar was considered as imperialistic influence. So these guys, you know, for instance, and that is also with this manga beat. It was again the same thing later on, but in 1960s, 1970s, they were the subversion. That's something that I can go more in detail.